You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Great to have you with me here today on this Training Thursday show, where we're going to be talking about body transformation. But we're going to be focused on one of the bigger studies to have come out in 2019 that really looks at intermittent fasting in weight loss and metabolism, and it was done over a 50-week period, so a good amount of time that it was looked at. The results are very interesting, though, since they go against what people are preaching, essentially, for the intermittent fasting diet, meaning that when we're looking at you depriving yourself or just cutting back on calories for a certain period of time, what does that do to your body? Does it actually help to speed up weight loss? And if so, how does it compare to typically just restricting overall calories? And you know, I'm a big proponent of intermittent fasting. I'm not necessarily a proponent of what they talked about in this specific diet. We'll see how that plays out. And we'll look at the research. We'll do it from an unbiased perspective because remember, my job is to do what works, but also what's safe and natural. And it's also not to do what works in the short term, but what can we look at for this data? And we can use it in the long term as well. So really two parts to this that I believe, at least to me, are very, very interesting. One part is this. What does intermittent fasting, up-down days, which I'll explain in a moment, have to do with weight loss? But also, what does that have to do in terms of overall health? Because there are two different categories. As I've really explained before, that what you do in order to transform your body does not always translate over into great health. For example, there are a lot of people that could do very low-carb diets for a longer period of time. They could do all sorts of different deprivation-based diets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they can look good, right, in terms of what the media typically presents as being in great shape. But here's the problem. You can do that in the short term. Over a long period of time, that typically does not work out in your favor. And I used to be in that camp as well, for sure. When I was in my early 20s, even mid-20s, I did things to really transform my body, to push against my genetics, to create the body that I wanted, that I thought would be the best for me. But when I was doing that, that was not always the best health-wise. I was overtrained. I was eating way too much protein. And then when I would start to get really lean, then I would deprive myself of a lot of carbohydrates. So there's obviously a middle ground, but really if we're talking about body transformation, truly trying to transform our body, I help people with that as well. And I just let them know, listen, this is something we can do right now. We don't want to do this for life. Here are some of the repercussions you may see if you start to push it too far. If we get to that point, we'll start to ease back out of it. But, and I've said this, but for the most part, when I'm working with, whether it's a fitness competitor, a celebrity, anybody that just wants to be in great shape, right? Great shape, but they have a photo shoot coming up, they're a model, whatever it might be. A lot of people don't know this, but the model or the person who's trying to be in great shape and all that, I work with those people all the time on very specific diet, nutrition-based routines, and they're only in that type of shape, the type of shape that you would see on a fitness cover or, on Instagram, whatever it is, for a couple of days maximum for the photo shoot. And then they'll come back up another 5 pounds to 7 pounds or so. And that's actually healthy. That's a better weight for them because they're not as irritable, not as moody. There's less chance, if it's female-wise, to lose your menstrual cycle. So, we talk about that. You can start to damage the thyroid. And those are all things that we can say, okay, well, we'll get you there for a couple of days. You'll look your best. You'll do your photo shoot, and then we'll move on. But it's also important for all of us to realize that when you see fitness models and you see them coming out with their new bathing suit line or whatever it might be, that most of those people are there for their photo shoot, meaning at that body fat percentage, but they don't sit there every day of their life. And that hopefully will allow you to understand why you should not necessarily aspire to being that lean all year round. Maybe you are there for a good amount of the summer, but not there for the entire year, because there are things that you need to do that, again, may not be the best all year round. But at the same time, I will say, if that's a goal of yours, you can make it happen. You can just do it from a healthier way. So one of the reasons why I believe the study that we're going to go over right now was such a big thing is that probably for the general public, the biggest and most exciting intermittent fasting diet that's been out for quite some time is called the 5-2 diet. And what it is you are looking at eating normally for 5 days of the week. And then for 2 days of the week, typically not 2 days back to back, I'll go in and give you some more in depth on this as well, because I did a podcast on this about 3 years ago now, is that when we look at this specific diet, you're taking your calories down to about 500 calories per day for those 2 days a week. So obviously that's not a lot of food, right? That's a couple handfuls of food. That's it for the day. And typically you're trying to stick with your veggies and all the good things. Well, what this study did was it used the same methodology of the 5-2 diet. But what it did was that it basically took whatever the person eats on a daily basis and it reduced that by 75%. Let's say you were eating 2,000 calories per day. You would take it down to the 500 calories. If you're eating 1,600 calories per day, you're taking it down to 400. If you're eating 1,200 calories a day, you're taking it down to 300. So all we're doing is we're taking those markers down 75%. So if you wanted to mimic this study, you're welcome to. And you would do it for 2 days a week. So since I've gone over the 5-2 diet before, I did a review of it. That was on, way back on episode 62 of the Cabral Concept, way back in the day. So just go to stephencabral.com/062, and you will find that particular show. I did a full review, basically laying out exactly how to do it, how to complete it, so that if you're someone that wanted to follow it or look into it, you're welcome to. And I give the pros and cons always. I know that different things work for different people, which is why I'm doing this show today. So with this particular diet, let's just look at the basics. Let's say that Monday and Thursday are your day to do your 2 low-calorie days. The rest of the days, you'll eat pretty normally. You might even have a cheat meal in there on the weekend or so where you're having alcohol or having, things that wouldn't be considered one of the healthier foods, right? So on fasting days, again, those are the days that you're doing plenty of veggies. They allow some eggs and a little bit of berries and a little bit of soup and just low-calorie items overall. Okay, let's get back to this diet. What did they show? They wanted to look at a long study, almost a year long. And now, this is important to me. They only did it on 150 people. So it's not like this is a huge study. It was done on 150 random people, both men and women, between the ages of 35 and 65. Let me just check this. Non-smokers, body mass index greater than 25. So these people were considered overweight, BMI over 25. But less than 40. And 50% were women. Okay, yeah, age 35 to 65. I'm going to link up the study from PubMed for you to look over as well. Really easy to look at. This is not a difficult one. And what they were measuring essentially was adipose tissue. That's your fat. They were looking at that at the beginning of the study and end of the study. Now, it's very interesting to me because when I'm looking over the study as well, there wasn't even a huge change in overall weight. When I look at this particular study, and the study is called Effects on Intermittent and Continuous Calorie Restriction on Body Weight and Metabolism Over 50 Weeks, a randomized control study. What they looked at was the 12-week intervention, 12-week maintenance, and then a 26-week follow-up. Well, interesting, because what they're looking at is, let's say that everyone for the whole week was going to take in 14,000 calories, okay? So what they did was they said, okay, everyone's allowed to take in 14,000 calories. And then what they did was say, okay, the 5-2 group, you're going to add additional calories to your non-down days, we'll call them, up-down days, right? And then on your down days, you're going to do a 75% deficit. So if you're doing 2,200, whatever it might be, on the higher days, you're going to be doing, again, just 500 calories on your down days. But no matter what, at the end of the week, it's the same amount of calories. That's what the study looked at, okay? Because I know a lot of people are having difficulty. There's a lot of debate, a lot of arguments going on over this. It's always funny in our field where, everybody has to prove themselves right. And like, my diet's better than your diet. My diet can beat up your diet. Like all this crazy stuff that goes on. So they did a continuous calorie restriction versus the intermittent calorie restriction. All right. So continuous calorie restriction just means that we're taking your calories and we're just reducing them for the entire period of the study. And the intermittent says we're just going to reduce them on those 2 days. Well, here's what we found. At the final follow-up assessment, well, let's go with just the first 12-week intervention. We found that those people on the intermittent calorie restriction lost 5.2%, and those people on the controlled calorie restriction lost 3.3%. So that was pretty good. So it was a slightly greater weight loss with the intermittent calorie restriction, but they said not a huge discrepancy, which, I can see what they're saying there. I think it's clinically significant. It's almost 2% greater. So I think that's still pretty good. But here's the other thing. When they did the overall follow-up at 50 weeks, we had the intermittent calorie restriction, the 2 down days in there, at a 5.2% loss, which means they were a 1.9 differential, right? So they gained back the 1.9. And those people with the controlled calorie restriction, for the week, it's just lower calories, right, was 4.9. Now we're seeing not very clinically significant 0.3% difference between the two. So while people were really in the weeds for those 12 weeks, they were able to get a better effect. Over the course of a year, it shows that, yes, overall, just reducing the calories helps with keeping the weight off. Now, I'm going to qualify that at the end of the show because we all know that that's not true for certain segments of the population, and they always get left out. A couple things to take away. Since people didn't read the study, they were just reading other people's version of the study. The intermittent fasting, the 2 down days, actually did help with greater weight loss and fat loss over a 12-week period of time. Over a year, they pretty much leveled off. Compliance, there's a lot of things that play into this. But I completely agree. If we're looking at overall periods of time, the greatest goal is not to overeat, right? So we need to make sure our calories are controlled. And this is regardless of exercise in general. So I agree with that. My premise is this. It's almost one of those studies where I say, I'm glad that we did it. I believe this type of study is actually excellent. I would like to see it. The 50 weeks is good for me. Like, that's plenty of time. I would love to see it on a larger scale model, so more than 150 people, and I think we can do that now. Now there's some quantifiable data. But I'd also like to see it because a lot of people out there want to say, well, what about if I fast for 14 hours or 16 hours? Or what if I just do a 24-hour fast? What does that look like instead of doing any calories, right? So 24 hours, no calories versus 2 days of 500. And here's why. So if you're in the Integrative Health Practitioner certification, if you are studying a lot about fasting, what we talk about, yes, it has its effects on body fat loss. There's no doubt about that. But you have to understand, that's not why we're doing intermittent fasting. I would just really want to make that really clear. I do not provide people with intermittent fasting in order to help them lose weight. That's not a goal of mine. I provide them with intermittent fasting, which is not a low day of 500 calories. I have nothing against that. I really don't, but it's not the best way to do it. It's an easy way for some people because then they still get to eat that day. That's just less. But the reason why I provide intermittent fasting and the reason why there's so much great research around it is not focused on the weight loss, which is what we like to do in the media, right? Not me, but the world at large. I focus on it because of health. And now there are many principles, right? But the main principle is something called autophagy. And it means this: when you don't have new food coming into your body, especially if you have leaky gut or intestinal permeability, you then have less for your body to deal with. Which means what? Well, it means this, like really plain and simple. There's less dirt being brought into your house. So your cleaning crew, called your immune system or your immune cells, macrophages, and all sorts of other immune-based systems, get to go in and clean house at a much greater rate. Not only that, it's been proven to help destroy cancer cells that are forming in the body. So we do intermittent fasting for longevity-based purposes, for health-based purposes, and if someone's healthy, what can happen? They can't have a disease, right? Not possible, right? Because health means the absence, not just of disease, but of all the symptoms of poor health. So our goal is to get people healthy. What else happens when you get someone really healthy? They can't be overweight. Can't be. Because if you are overweight, believe me, I understand, but it means right now, if you're eating well, you're not overeating, and you are moving your body, it's because of an imbalance in the body. Now, it could be insulin related. It could be overall blood sugar. It could be thyroid. It could be adrenals. It could be estrogen dominance, right, over progesterone. There are many reasons of why this could be. Could be too much toxicity. Your adipose tissue is holding lots and lots of toxins, right? So there are so many reasons why, but you can absolutely figure it out. That's the great thing about functional medicine lab testing. That's the great thing about where we're at right now in 2019. No doubt about it, we can figure that out. Some cases harder than others, right? If someone's been struggling for 20 years, a little bit more of a challenge. You can still figure it out. Will it happen overnight? No. Like it's not going to, right? If anybody tells you that, they're just trying to sell you something, right? But here's the thing, you can still figure it out, absolutely, and it's absolutely worth it. Because by reducing your body weight, your chances of living a longer life without getting heart disease and cancer, like I spoke about earlier in the week on Tuesday, and I believe, let me see if I can find that podcast because I'd love you to listen to it. That was 1096, the number one silent killer of 25% of all people. 1096. If you just want to go to stephencabral.com/1096 or stephencabral.com/podcasts. I talked about it yesterday. 2 overlooked causes of poor health and weight gain. Talked about it. Toxicities, right? What was the other one? You'll check it out on that show yesterday. And it tells you all of those reasons. But more importantly, we have to understand that a person's ability to lose weight and maintain a healthy weight is all about the homeostatic systems within the body. So in order for us even to create autophagy, which is what I want from intermittent fasting, I need to have the regulated blood sugar because you won't get into autophagy, right? Don't listen to what other people are saying. If you have high blood sugar, it's going to be really challenging, right? Really challenging to do a great job detoxing and getting into an autophagy-based state. Okay, here's the other thing. When you're doing intermittent fasting, you're helping to re-regulate blood sugar, helping to re-regulate inflammation, helping to re-regulate hormones. There are so many benefits to that. It's why we incorporated 2 days of intermittent fasting straight, essentially, a little bit more than that, during our seasonal functional medicine detoxes, during the Dr. Cabral detox. Again, you can use the functional medicine kit of choice. Just make sure that it fully supports phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox. That's it. Again, like these things have been proven. I didn't make them up, right? Studied them, studied all over the world, trying to pull it together in one easy to complete kit. So when we have people do a detox, what are we looking to do? Sure, they lose weight. That's nice. Like that's a nice benefit. People who want to do it for weight loss typically lose 5 to 7 pounds in a week. That's fantastic. Why? Well, not because we were targeting that, but because what? We were decreasing inflammation, right, to healthy levels, balancing healthy inflammation levels, balancing healthy blood sugar, balancing healthy hormones. We're doing those things, which then affects what? Inflammation in your body, which if you're not inflamed, you start to drop weight at a much faster rate. So those are fringe benefits, but we're not trying to lose weight. What we're trying to do is get that body healthy. So that is what I would really like to use as a rebuttal to this study. Love this study. I'm glad that they did it. This is a good use of dollars to test things like that. Let's do more of this. I'm a huge proponent. And it does show that a down day in calories does actually burn more body fat, right? It shows that. But here's the other interesting thing. Over the course of the year, it may not matter as long as you're keeping your calories down. Now, again, this can go too far, which is why I also wanted to bring up this. If your calories are too low for too long, you hurt your metabolism. Your body becomes desensitized to additional calories, and most likely you're missing out on a lot of micronutrients, which leaves your body hungry, leaves your body more irritable. There's less neurotransmitters, less good microbiome based balance, unless you are eating enough fiber. So check out yesterday's show. I certainly talk about that quite a bit as well. Just 1 or 2 more takeaways I want to give you from this study is that I believe, and I think you'll see this proven out in time, that there's 2 ways to look at this. One, you look at your total calories for the week, and both of these were based on that. And I think that's great. We got slightly better results when you had 2 lower days of calories. So I like that, right? Many, many years ago, a colleague of mine wrote a paper. It wasn't really a book, but it was more like a longer paper on his findings. And he did 2 days a week of a 24-hour fast. Now, the interesting thing is this. You can go from dinner one night to dinner the next. And I spoke with him about this in 2000, and this is way back in the day, like 2008, 2009. So it's been about 10 years. So not just since then, but, I was using that, not exactly that time because I was trying to put on as much mass as possible, muscle, but more so over the past couple of years. And I've been doing it pretty much each Sunday night to Monday night. Typically, that's because my cheat meal or flex meal, whatever you prefer to call it, it's all semantics, is on the weekend, right? And that's when I'm definitely eating more carbs, processed food, etc. And I try to keep it to one meal. And that is my enjoyment meal, where I'm eating a lot of the things that I enjoyed from childhood. And typically it's bread and it's pasta and those types of things. And I still stay away from the things that I know aren't great for my body. But that's when I'll typically have some gluten if I decide to have some gluten. I still stay away from the dairy. It's just not great in terms of how it connects with my body and the brain fog and just the overall lower mood and energy levels the next day or two. It's just, again, not a great product in general. If you're going to stay away from one, I would stay away from cow's milk, especially the processed cow's milk you see in stores. If you want to make an argument for goat or sheep-based milk, then, that's okay. You could do that. That's a different story. Keep in mind this, though. We're looking at maintaining good overall calories for the year, but these longer fasts, which I would love to see this study done, and one day I do hope to be able to be backed by groups where I can run a lot of these studies, because remember, we have a huge community now, and I know I could get a lot of people who would love to participate in this type of a study, whether it's with supplements or without. That doesn't matter to me. We can just do it all food-based. But what I'd love to be able to see is, can we do 1 or 2 days a week of a 24-hour intermittent fast, where you're going from dinner, like I said, Sunday night. You have dinner with your family Sunday night, with your partner, your spouse, by yourself, watching TV, however you like to do it, Sunday night, and then you just go until Monday night like I do, and then I have dinner Monday night, but it's 24 hours, right? It's 24 hours. Now, we can talk about ramping up phase 1, phase 2 liver detox during that time. Check out my show on that. It's called the 1 Day Diet, or the 1 Day Diet, I believe. Let me actually look that up for you right now, because that's probably an important one. 1 Day Diet. You hear me typing away right over there. And that is on episode 523, I believe. Google is pretty good at locating these things. 1 Day Diet, Stephen Cabral, the 1 Day Reset Diet Explained. Check that out on episode 523. I talk about the details of this because, again, I want to respect your time each and every day so that hopefully you can tune in and continue to accumulate the knowledge, not try to get it all in one episode. Here's how I look at it. I believe that we got some pretty good results with the 5-2, right? I believe you're going to get better results when you allow for autophagy to truly take place, which takes not 12 hours, not 15, not 16, but typically they're saying about 18 hours. Allow your body the time to really clean house. And then again, here's the biggest secret of all. So I wanted to pass this on to you, because there's a lot of people out there right now doing a 16-hour intermittent fast, which I don't believe is great for most people. I've explained that before in the past on why you should not skip breakfast, and especially for women. And again, short periods of time, no problem. But go back and check out that show, okay? Because it works for some people, but again, not for most. And we can test that. Again, it's not my opinion. It's based on clinical research. Here's the thing, though. I believe we're going to see great results not fasting for a longer period of time each day, but getting the benefits, which is what's really proven through science, for the longer periods of fasting, 1 day, 2 days or so. And you wouldn't do 2 days in a row every week. We do it every 3 months, where it's like 2.5 days of fasting, where you're just giving your body just the nutrients it needs to ramp up phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox, so that there's no Herxheimer-based reactions, and so that your liver is not overloaded as you're breaking down and metabolizing all of these toxins in your body, because you need to eliminate those quickly. So the bottom line is this. I want to end with this. The reason you do intermittent fasting, in my opinion, is not for body transformation. It can help with that, but there's a lot of things that can help with that, right? Eating cleaner helps with that. We just saw that, right? Over a continuum, over a year. But what I want to look at is this. You do intermittent fasting for the health benefits, for the anti-aging benefits. That is why you do it. And because of that, then you get all the fringe benefits of better mood, clearer thinking, less brain fog, less inflammation. All of those things you get, those are the fringe benefits of you doing things that are healthy for the body, right? and that work on anti-aging through certain processes such as autophagy. So love the studies. Just wanted to give you my comments on that, and I will absolutely link it up in the show notes today, and that will be over at stephencabral.com/1098. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was, please do feel free to pass it along to anyone else it may serve. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stephencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.